This is the Bookyard Podcast. This is your host, Ade Olasanola. Welcome to this very special episode where we have a special lady who's going to be talking to you and be sharing her experiences with you. I'm not going to introduce her to you now. She's going to introduce herself. But in the time being, let me introduce my co-host, Soji Fagade. Hello, Soji. Welcome to this nice recording and
I'm
this
waiting for the
very
applause. This is where you. Thank you.
Drums
yeah,
rolling.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Yes. I don't know. I mean, I guess this is where we now let the cat out of the bag or have the big reveal. Ta-da! Boom. Boom, 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 boom.
hey.
Hello.
Taya. Hello, Taya.
Hello.
Welcome to Bookyard Podcast, where we talk about books, authors, publication, tips, tricks, everything that helps the guest to sort of on their travel in their journey as authors and publishers and whatever it is they want to know about books. So welcome to this platform. So I'm not going to talk for
Thank
you.
you
I'm
for
just going
having
to
me.
allow you to introduce yourself. So this is Tayo. Over to you now. So Tayo, tell us about yourself and how you got to where you are now. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Tayo Utomi. I write under the name of Tayo Emmanuel. So sometimes I go for Tayo Emmanuel Utomi. So how do I introduce myself as a writer? I'm just going to start about my writing journey. I think I started writing from secondary school, and one of the things that got me interested in writing is because literature and English were my best subjects. And if you grew up at the time I grew up, we were a lot into reading. So I started reading seriously when I was in primary four, and I used to lay my hands on books like written by Nick Carter, James Hadley Chase. Funny enough, I think I read my first Harold Robbins book when I was in Form 1, and I would read those books until probably I won't put them down until actually when I finish. So I had a keen interest in literature from my primary school. And then when I got into secondary school, my best subjects were English and literature. Actually, when I wrote my GCSE, that's the first two subjects I actually passed because I had to retake my papers. I failed the other ones, not woefully, but not as much as I should. I didn't really pass them. So I passed those two, and then I continued writing. I was very, very keen on books by Shakespeare in secondary school. I read books from Wole Soyinka, Chinua Achebe, the old works, and I started writing poems when I was in secondary school. And like when you are growing up, you have a crush on one guy, the guy has a
Yeah.
crush on you, but you are not dating and things like that. So I started writing because I was also
Love
quiet in
poems.
school. And instead of talking, I put my thoughts in writing. So that's how I started writing poems. When I went into university, I continued writing, but I read economics in university because at that time, when I was growing up, your African parents, you have to read law, medicine, engineering, and stuff like that. So when I told my parents I wanted to read mass comm, my father was like, "No, that's not a serious-minded course." So I ended up reading it. I ended up reading economics, and then when I finished school, I joined some writing clubs. I was the pioneer. I was one of the pioneer members of the magazine for my church. I'm a
Okay.
Christian, so I go to church. For my church, I was one of the pioneer members, and then at my workplace, I would usually write for people, edit for
Mm.
them, try to help them construct better sentences and things like that. So we started a magazine at my place of work, my first place of work as well. And then as I progressed in my career, I just kept on writing, and people would notice that I love writing. They'll bring their stuff to me to write, to edit, and make it look better. And I
Yeah.
think one of the experiences I have was when I was working in a bank. I was writing a lot, and I was writing for the CEO. And then
Mm.
I created book templates, document templates for my colleagues that this is
Mm.
the way we should be writing formally.
Okay.
My CEO called me at the time and said, I think I'm going to create a department for you.
Oh,
And
that's
that's
great.
how I got into brand management and communications. So I
Wow.
kept on writing, and then while I was writing for church, I had written some poems, written some short stories and stuff. Sometimes in 2000 and a long time ago now,
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to be published because I saw things that people were publishing and I felt, oh, I can do that. I've got some stuff. So I put my materials together,
Mm.
the articles I've written, the poems I've written, I put them together. And that's how I published my first book. It's an anthology of short stories and poems. It's titled Little Things of Eternal Value.
All right.
And I moved to the UK that was back in Nigeria, and then I moved to the UK sometimes in 2011, 2012. I attended a short writing course, creative writing, and one of
Yeah.
the exercises we needed to do was to start writing. Every time you go to class, you have to write. So I started writing. I didn't know what I was writing then. I just decided to start writing. And then the teacher said, oh, this is good. Keep on writing. So for all the class work, I kept on developing what I had written.
Glory.
And that's how my first full length novel, which is 86,000 words, got to be written and published.
Well
And
done.
subsequently,
Wow.
I've written three other books. So that first one is titled um, A Bouquet of Dilemma. It's a love story. I write romance, by the way. And
Ah.
I write romance because like I said, I write poems, but I was a bit into relationship counseling. I
All
like
right.
the intrigues around relationships, the intrigues
Mm.
around life, and how we can
Mm.
make better relationships. So
We
Why am I
get you,
definitely, I write.
why am I suddenly feeling all swingy and all mushy?
Mushy, mushy. Yeah. We get you.
So when I'm with
Amazing.
people, I'm just kind of watching them, not
Right.
obviously, but it's kind of
No.
everything people say kind of registers with me, and I'm thinking, oh, how can I turn that into something other people would read and
Yeah.
maybe learn something from. I like to say that I'm writing for entertainment, but much more importantly, I'm writing to make impact in people's lives. How you
Yeah.
can improve on your relationships, how you can make better um, decisions about life, about love, about everything generally. So that's what I write about. My second book I wrote, and it was based on a real life story. Not everything is true life, but based on a real life story. My
Of
second
course.
book is titled Echoes from the Past.
Yeah.
That's been made into a Nollywood film because the first
Wow.
person that read that book said, oh, I can see, as I was reading, I could see everything. It's like things are coming to life. So I started that journey. So that's been made into a movie yet to come out. My
That's,
third book I wrote during the pandemic. You know, everyone had a lot of time on their hands, by the way.
yeah.
And I started writing. And then I learned about something happening in somebody's life
Like,
around the pandemic. So that's how I wrote a book about the pandemic. And it's still a love story.
yeah.
I think there's
Another love
this thing
story. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. But you
after
didn't
the
say you read
tunnel.
Mills and Bones, though. Did you read Mills and Bones at all?
Oh,
Because
of
Nick,
course I
exactly,
read Mills
that's where
and
the
Bones.
romance comes from. Because I read Nick Carter, I read Adley Chase, and they're like detective type
Yeah, they
books.
are.
But Mills
But
and Bones was really romance.
Harold Robbins is mostly romance, not
Yeah.
crime.
Sheldon
Yeah, so I
as
read
well. Yeah.
yes, Sidney Sheldon, Jackie Collins. I
Oh
think
my
I've been
God.
around Jacqueline Susan. I
Yeah.
still read. I still read now. I still read. My
Yeah.
favorite author is Jojo Moyes.
Yeah.
You can
And
also
the
express
Wale
that you.
Soyinkas of this
Hmm?
world. I'm sure you would have read The Lion and the Jewel.
Yes.
Yeah, I read The Lion and the Jewel. I love a lot of Wole Soyinka's books. I read a lot of that as well. Yeah, so I wrote
Interesting.
the third book during the pandemic. It's titled Blurry Lines. And
Okay.
then my last book, I started writing based on the experiences of a friend, and it's about emotional abuse. And one of
All
the
right.
things that motivated me to write that is the fact that my background is Nigeria, definitely. And there are a lot of things that is just coming to light in Nigeria that is not treated with the level of seriousness and gravity that is supposed to be treated. So
Yeah.
we are still talking about physical abuse now. That's just being recognized as something we need to address. So we
Offense, yeah.
haven't really gotten to that level of emotional abuse and stuff like that. So it's just about trying to bring something to light that is not really out there.
Yeah.
So that's me. I'm working on my fifth novel,
Oh wow.
Yeah.
by the
Done.
way.
Now
Yeah,
Well,
you've given
that's
us
it.
so
I think
much.
that's a mouthful for introduction, but
Yeah,
that's me.
you've given
well
us
done. We don't mind.
a
It's all
lot
about
to. I mean, I can't even begin to sort of applaud you enough. But I mean, okay, so from one of the things we're trying to do on this platform is to obviously help folks who want to navigate their path from either being an aspiring author or being an established author, and they don't know how to get to either putting their stuff out there, getting a publisher, even how to even embark on the journey from day one. They might even not know how to what to write, what subjects to write about, how to navigate that sort of pathway. And here you are. I mean, you've sort of come into it, and almost you come into your own. You've written 4 novels. You've
well
actually written movies as well. You've written, I mean, a play that was sort of a work that has been transformed into a movie. That is
yeah.
something a lot of people aspire to. I mean, not just get a bestseller, but also maybe write something that would be made into movies. And obviously, and I understand you also have something in the pipeline as well that may be
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
into a movie, but you can't talk about that for confidentiality purposes. We get that. That's fine. But hey, but it's inspiring because a lot of people look at things like this and think it's beyond them. Oh, I can write, but I don't see myself as an author, or I don't know how to harness that talent. Because as they say, there's a book in everyone, right? So, but then if you don't write the book, no one knows what you've got in you, and
No.
you never know how what you've written will impact somebody else.
Yeah.
Could you sort of possibly talk us through how you navigated the path of being did you self publish, or did you use a publisher? If you self publish, how did you go about that? If you were a self publisher, if you use an established publisher, how did you find them?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Nigeria. When I was back in Nigeria, that industry is not fully developed yet. It's still a developing industry. And when I wanted to bring out the first book, which is the um, compilation of short stories and poetry, I tried to find publishers, and I realized that what a lot of so-called publishers were doing was not really publishing, because here in the UK or maybe any other Western world, if you've got traditional publishers, they start from proofreading your book, editing, giving you concept, idea, how to improve your book, up to printing, up to marketing. And a lot of the publishers I saw were doing bits and pieces of each of those things. So I decided, okay, I think I'm a creative person, I'm a practical person. And
Yeah.
once I realized I did a lot of research. Once I realized what was required to publish a book, I just did it, and then worked with a printer. I did the typesetting myself, did everything myself, because like I said, I worked in communication. So
Yeah.
I was into, and I've worked on a lot of magazines. So I was into a lot of book setting, as it were, template development. So that's what I did for my first book. And I did a launch, and the outcome was really, really impressive. And that was when I thought to myself, wow, if I had not done this, people would not have known about these things. And by the way, I wasn't a very serious-minded person in school. So even in life, I'm still a very playful person. So when I said I was going to launch a
Same here.
book, people were like,
Same here. Same here. I'm very
people were like,
carefree.
you wrote a book? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I do when nobody is there. So I did a launch, and people came, and that was how the first one came out. The
Okay.
second one, when I got into the UK and I did that short training, we were told about how you could approach publishers and stuff like that. You could get you can get an agent, and I tried
Yeah.
those things. And even in the UK, there are traditional publishers and there are vanity publishers. So I must have written like maybe like 30 or 50 letters pitching, trying to
Same
pitch my
here.
book, but I think Yeah, I got a lot of rejections, which I think a lot of us will get in our, as we grow as adults. You will get rejections in a lot of places. Maybe like you are even attending an interview and things like that. So I got a lot of rejections, and I felt, well, this book is there. I've done it already. I can self-publish, and then I started researching how to self-publish as well.
Yeah.
And thank God for Kindle, thank God for Amazon,
I
all the
know.
resources that you actually need to publish, you've got it.
Yeah.
So that's how I did my second book,
Mm,
self-published. After publishing, sent it out to a lot of book reviewers, and then
mhm.
some of them came back with reviews and stuff like that. And that's how I got into Amazon. I still self-publish, and each time I write a book, I try to still approach
Yeah.
publishers
The
and agents
traditional ones. Yeah.
until I get that positive response I'm looking for. I'll keep knocking, and then I'll
Mm.
keep pushing forward. So that's how I've gotten here so far.
Well, that's good though, because our journey is very similar in the sense that I wrote quite a lot of traditional publishers and agents as well. But thank God for the 21st century, because it means that for everyone that has written a book, there is an outlet for them, which is a self publication. Whereas in the past, a lot of people's books died under their beds, in their
Yeah,
cupboards, went with them to the grave because
yeah,
nobody believed in them. So now,
yeah,
we don't need people to sort of certify us as, authors. We can actually do it ourselves.
yeah,
And, it's so amazing that people can write. So that is one of the reasons we've created this podcast so that people who are aspiring and do not have that opportunity that a traditional publisher can provide or an agent in the industry, literary agent can provide, they can use this opportunity to learn tricks, tips on how to do these things themselves. Because I remember going actually for a seminar as well on how to self-publish when I had all of my rejections. I still have some of the rejection letters. I've kept them, thinking that one day when I make it big, I shall publish them and then let people see that, see who is dancing now, see who is smiling. You rejected me, but I've made it. So thank you for that, Tayo. So you've talked about your journey from how you got your book published. Most of the people that we have on this platform, they actually talk about publication of books, the journeys, the tricks, and the tips. Nobody has ever talked to us about the steps that needs to be taken in making your book, translating it from a book to a movie. So can you kindly, because your second book, Echoes of the Past, I've actually seen the trailer of that book, the movie. I can't wait for it to come out on Netflix. Can you just give us an idea of how to do it? So if I had one of my books, for example, and I'm thinking of making into a movie, it doesn't have to be Nollywood. How do you approach that? What steps do you need to take to get that
okay.
sorted?
So I can only share what I know, and
Oh,
people's
exactly.
journeys people's journeys will definitely be different.
Oh,
And
definitely.
one of the things I can tell people is that you just need to keep knocking and keep doing what you can do or what you need to do to get to where you are. And the journey may seem long, it may seem as if you're not getting
It's a
any
process.
response, but whatever it is you've eaten, it remains eating. It's only when
Mm,
people say that it's discovered. So when I
yeah.
wrote Echoes from the Past, the first set of people that's read it, I told you, one lady said, "Oh, this is a movie material. I could
Mm,
practically see myself. I could practically see the scenes coming out and things like that."
yeah.
And that was like consistently the feedback I got
Yeah.
consistently. And I was like, okay, so let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's try it. And then also I was involved, I used to be in drama.
Ah.
So
Okay.
I also like I like creative arts. So I said, okay, let's try it. And then I started speaking with people. I went to Nigeria because uh, my books are usually set in Nigeria.
Yeah.
The one that is set in the UK is Blurry Lines, which I wrote during the pandemic because the story is in the UK. But a
Mm,
lot my three other novels are actually set in Nigeria. So I started talking to people in Nigeria, publishers, cameramen, and filmmakers, just started
Mm.
talking to everybody. Do you know people? I actually wrote some Nollywood artists as well. Didn't get a feedback, didn't get a response,
Ah,
didn't get, I actually did some cold. I used to work in marketing as well. So
old
I did
call.
some cold knocking. Didn't get no response. And then somebody introduced me to someone that, okay, before you even start saying you want to make a movie, you need to have a script
Yeah.
that nobody's going to read. The
Your
people that are in filmmaking, they don't necessarily read books, they read scripts.
oh, yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay, I don't want to write scripts, and also the way scripts are written is quite different from the way books are
No,
written. So
I know.
I looked for somebody that could write the scripts for me. Found somebody in Canada and then found somebody in Nigeria. So I went with the person that was in Nigeria, and then the person wrote the scripts. And of course, there's usually a lot of back and forth when they are
Oh,
translating books to scripts, the things that you want to
it's
communicate,
different.
the things that the script writer wants to communicate and stuff like that. So there is usually that disconsonance, and you need to bring it back together. So after the script was written, I started writing proposals. And I'm a business analyst in my day job, so I do a lot of research. I
Mm,
started reading about how to get your books into the cinema. So that's how I started doing some research. So how do we get this published? You can get sponsors, you can approach other filmmakers, you can
mm,
partner and things like that. So I started writing a proposal. And funny enough, the lady that did my script writing,
mm.
because she was in the industry, got
Yeah.
approached by some producers that they were looking for something to produce.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
yeah, I was sitting down. So
Yeah,
I
the
was just
puzzles,
looking, I
everything.
wasn't
Just keep
looking at that.
moving, keep moving. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
just
it
keep
all
moving.
falls into
Yeah.
place.
And
Yeah.
of course, she wrote it because she wrote the script because she knew I wanted to do a film.
Yeah.
And so she told me, oh, I've got these people, they are looking for a good story. I
All
love
right.
this story. Are you interested in partnering with them? Oh, why not? That's what I've been looking for. And so I got the book actually bought off me. The story was bought off me.
All
And so
right.
when you see that the film is, of course, the film will make it to Netflix. And when you see
Yeah.
the film, I didn't have any financial input into
Oh,
that.
that's
The story was bought off me
oh,
for a
that's good.
period. So that's how I got
And we
into
see you in
film.
secret, Tayo.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
so you
So that's how
can
I
grace
got
my
into that.
palm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
hope that makes sense to anyone that is reading. Deola, I
it
hope that makes
does.
sense
Yeah.
to you, Soji. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
It
that's my
does, yeah,
journey.
yeah. I think the key thing is research though, because I've realized that quite a lot of people are lazy. You want to do something, you haven't done it before. I told you before I ever self-published my book, I went on the internet to say, okay, I want to self-publish. How do I do it? And this company was holding a seminar in Milton Keynes. I'll never forget the day I went there. I was so unwell. I had the flu, and I had to drive from my house. But because that was my dream to get my books out, I went there and there were so many people there like me who had written books and wanted it out, and they didn't have the traditional publishers helping. They just wanted to do it their own way. So the research is always very, very good. And is either you research, talk to someone who's done it, because I have a lot of people now that say, oh, somebody wants to write a book, how do I do it? And so many people have given tips to. And there was somebody that asked me recently, oh, somebody just wrote a book, what do you do? I just sent them one of my podcasts to say, look, this talks about all of the processes. And they've, published the book. So you can't be lazy, and you have to keep moving, because it's really in the moving that all the puzzles, everything just falls into place, and then you
Yeah,
can get to the destination that you want. So I think we need to tell people not to give up, keep doing it, and one day you see your book live. It is really is a tangible thing. So when you hold that book, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe I did it, and it spurs
yeah,
you on to do other things. So
yeah.
it's really, really amazing. Thank you for that journey. So if people want
And
to
maybe
write you,
just to add, one of the things that I find really rewarding is, as much as I'm still a young author. I'm not so popular yet. I'm
No.
getting there. But as much as for the few people that read my book, for the many people that read my book, when they tell me, "Oh, I could see myself in that book. I could see
Yeah.
myself in that situation." And there was somebody that actually she's a professor in Ogun State University, and she's a professor family law. And
Mm,
she told me one day, "Oh, she used my book to cancel people." I'm like, oh,
that's so
there is
sweet.
nothing as rewarding as that. So
Yeah.
there is a lot of reward in your books, your works being out.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
know who is going to impact, who is going to love it until you
Yeah.
get it out.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Amazing.
the moral of the story, like we said earlier on, is that you just never know who the work is speaking to, right?
Yeah.
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 You may not think, oh, you have a book in you. You do not
Mm,
think that what you have to talk about is relevant or will make sense to
yeah.
anybody. But somebody else will read it and think, oh my goodness,
Mm,
this is fantastic.
mm,
Like you just
yeah.
said, I mean, you've got a teacher in university to sort of use your book as a way of as a means of counseling or teaching others. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. Right.
Mm.
If you're not inspired by Tyler Utomi, I think you need to be examining, you
There's
know?
no hope. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I also think, if I may add, I think I've spoken to a lady before who's written short stories and poetry, and she's had them for years. Somebody referred that to me, and I had a chat with her, and some people have that block. So the work is there, but there's something unseen stopping them from doing it. When I say unseen, because they have everything that it takes for the book to come out, and you give them all of the tips and you sort of mentor them, and they're still stuck where they are. So until such person or people can actually tell themselves that, you know what, I can do this, because I know I'll never forget one of my poetry book that I published. Somebody said to me, "Oh my God, you published a poetry book. You're revealing your soul to the world." I said, "We all have the souls. So the souls I'm revealing to the world doesn't stay in me alone, because relationships all over the world is the same. It doesn't matter whether you're white or black. So if I say I love someone, a white person will love someone, a black person will love someone, Asian, all over the world. If the relationship doesn't go right and is in a poem, in poetry, everyone feels the same. Love is the same, feeling is the same, relationships are the same all over the world. It doesn't matter what color you are. So I think what I'm trying to say is that some people feel that they'll be judged somehow, and maybe that gives them that block that stops them from taking the necessary steps for their books to come out. But if they become people like Tayo and Adiola who really don't care, it's a writing that we want to share with people. No, I say I'm really serious about that, because my poetry book as well, I'll never forget. My one of my secretaries in the past actually bought it, and she was reading one, and I saw her, she was crying. I'm like, "Sorry, what's going on?" And it was the one titled Papa. Was about my dad. Passing on the love he had, and he had left the world. And she was like, this is like me, because my dad had passed on and all of that. And she's white, I'm black, but the feelings, the relationship, everything is the same. So I think what I'm trying to say is that just get it out there, get your books, get your work out there. Like Tayo said, you really do not know who is going to impact, and it gives people joy to know that, oh, okay, I'm not alone in this, because whatever I'm feeling, other people have felt it or they are feeling it. And
Absolutely.
yes, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, writing transcends race, transcends color,
It does.
transcends origin. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it transcends culture as well, you know?
yeah, it
So it's
does.
all
Yeah,
encompassing. And that, I mean, people like you just sort of demonstrate that, I mean, most remarkably in your work. We are just like broadcasters or what you might call folks who listen to you guys. You know, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
amazing impact you guys are having on the world, and it's really, really good. Now, Tayo, if someone wants to get in touch with you and says that, look, you've done all this fantastic work, have you got like a, how do they reach you? You have like a website, you have like a Twitter handle, you have like a Facebook, or do you have Instagram, all that sort of stuff?
I have a website
Okay.
and it's Tayo
No, don't worry.
Emmanuel.
We'll share all of that in the description
Yeah.
at the end of this. But yeah, we'll share that. Okay.
Yeah.
But so you have a
I've
website.
got a
Okay.
website.
You've also got, what else have you got? You got Facebook.
Yeah, I've got Facebook. Not very good with Facebook,
Okay.
and I've got Instagram. Not very good with Instagram. Not very
All
good
right.
with social media, to be honest.
All right. So
My
Yeah.
website is more
is this where I
active.
come in now? Okay. Don't worry. We'll talk about this after.
Yeah, this is where you come in. We can't be jack of all trades.
No. Stick to your strength, I say. Stick to your
Yeah,
strength.
we
Absolutely.
have to stick to something. Yeah. I want to be a
Absolutely.
writer. I don't want to be a book promoter. So
That's
that's the
No.
difference.
and that's okay. And that's okay. Well, fantastic. Listen,
Yeah.
it's a pleasure having you. I mean,
No, she's not going yet. She's not going
no. I
yet
mean,
because
I didn't say she was. I'm just saying I'm
oh,
just expressing my own pleasure. You know.
yeah. Hey, before you go, Tayo, we always ask our guests to give one tip. So if somebody watched this episode of this Bookyard podcast and they are taking one thing or two things away from your own point of view, what will it be?
I think you kind of mentioned, I was going to interrupt you. I just didn't want to be rude, but you kind of mentioned something about having a block. And
Yeah,
of course, a lot of us have different desires, but there would be something that should push you beyond your everyday life. And writing sometimes is not so much about the money, it's about the passion. So
yeah,
if anybody would take anything away from here, I would say just write. It's as simple as that. And sometimes even like I told you, I'm currently writing my fifth novel,
yeah,
and sometimes I have writer's block. But the way
yeah,
I unblock that writer's block is just pick my laptop and sit down in front of it, whatever it is, even if it's just a sentence I'm going to write for 5 hours,
yeah,
that comes out. That sentence is already out and I've written it. So just just write. Just find an opportunity to write. If you really have a story in you, it doesn't have
mm,
to be perfect the first
yeah,
time. We all don't we don't learn to walk in one day. And if you have not crawled, it's foolhardy to think that you will start walking day one.
yeah,
So start crawling until your legs are strong enough to carry you to start walking. So that's what I'll say. Just write. Just find some time to write.
yeah.
And it doesn't have to be perfect, but just
Yeah.
write.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, that's great. Where is Soji? So thank you, Tayo, for coming here. Thank you for the listeners. This is a Bookyard podcast where we talk about books. We bring on or invite wonderful guests to share their stories with you. And today we hope you've picked one trick or one tip to run with so that we'll be reading your books next on Amazon, on Lulu, wherever the books are. So thank you everyone for just listening, and thank you Soji, thank you Tayo.
Bye bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining Adiola on this journey. She looks forward to exploring the world of self-publishing with you. Make sure to subscribe to the Bookyard and join in every week for a new episode. Until next time, keep writing and keep dreaming big.